Wrestling fans, promoters, wrestlers, and anyone who enjoys pro wrestling now have something new to be excited about. The Wrestling Fans International Association, the WFIA, is back. WFIA is an association that exists to promote, grow, and support professional wrestling throughout the world. Membership is free. Your membership includes a free digital bi-monthly publication of the Wrestling Fan News newsletter, association updates, voting privileges, and much more. Please go to thewfia.org, that's THEWFIA.org, and become a member today. Welcome to another edition of Bumps and Thumps, the Talk of Wrestling. I'm Brian Ferguson. My guest today has been a wrestling fan since she was about 11 years old. She has been the photographer for the Cauliflower Alley Club for many years, as well as the George Tragos and Thesz Hall of Fame in Waterloo, Iowa, since its inception in 1999. I want to welcome, first of all, my tag team partner for today, Mr. George Shire, and our guest who just wrote this book, My Ringside Seat to the AWA, Ms. Joyce Paustian. Joyce, thanks for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Brian. I'm so glad for the publicity and so glad to share the memories of the AWA and the many venues of photos that I take wrestling shots.
You know, I had the pleasure. Joyce sent me this book last week, and I couldn't put it down. I just finished it yesterday. I think she said, I think I got it last Thursday, if I remember right. Read through it all weekend, even with grandkids here. I had some time to read in between, and it is a fantastic book about your journey, really, with the AWA when they were in your hometown and surrounding areas, and I want to get into that in a few minutes. But I want to thank you too for wearing that shirt. If you can't see it, folks, it's the Bumps and Thumps t-shirt, and I'm wearing my AWA shirt because I was promoting her book, but that's okay. We can do it. So,
and I'm wearing a Twins shirt because I'm trying to give them some luck.
Yeah, well, you know, I should have wore a Royal shirt because they're worse, so that's okay. But I want to talk to Joyce for a minute. I want to start out a little bit about, you know, in the book you kind of describe how this journey started, and if you don't mind, and George chime in anytime as well. But my first question to you is, Joyce, how did this journey really start for you?
Well, it started on TV as a lonely kid growing up and as a teenager. The TV was one of my best friends. My siblings were much older and my parents were often busy with them, and I was a very obedient kid. So I loved TV. So whether it was sitcoms or old westerns or sports, I watched baseball, you name it. My TV was on almost all the time, and I had a TV from the time I was 13 years old, but I had one at 11 on my desk, just a little 13-incher, and it kept me occupied. Don't get me wrong, I did read a lot too, but I love TV, and so I would watch a lot of comedy shows, especially, and I was going to watch Laugh-In one night, and because it was one of my favorite shows, just the silly comedy, if people remember that at all. But it wasn't on. It was preempted for some reason, and so I thought, well, I got to watch something. So I switched to one of the other three channels, and it was fate, I think, that wrestling was on a Monday night, which was an odd thing because it had been preempted from the Saturday showing for some reason, and I happened to tune in right when Mad Dog Vachon was in an interview. This is 1969. And he He was bare chested with his full fur chest.
Yeah.
Fur,
But
fur.
yeah. And his gravelly voice, and so I thought, what is this? This looks cool. So
Yeah.
I watched the whole
What a
show.
deranged child.
I was very deranged, very deranged. George knows some of my favorite shows up till that time were Batman and Dark Shadows, and so I was into macabre stuff or a lot of hero villain type stuff. So I thought,
Yeah.
oh, this looks right up my alley. So
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was sports. That I thought it was like another show at first.
Mhm.
But I started watching it and rarely missed a week after that. Even that fall, I started writing down the matches from the TV matches. And, as I mentioned in the book, my spelling of what the guy's name sounded like was atrocious. I didn't have a clue because I had never seen a wrestling magazine. I had never seen ads of it. My parents never talked about wrestling or anything. And it was one of those things like that my mom, thought, this is a fad, she'll grow out of it. I don't need to worry. She can watch these shows as long as it's not, anything horrible. But anyway, I never grew out of it.
Hey, I'm with you. My dad didn't allow it at home. I'd always have to watch it at my grandma's house because he couldn't say anything there. And I think they thought it was, this will pass. I'm 52 years old. It's still, it's obviously with the background and everything, it's still there. And let's talk, what got you into photography? Was that kind of a thing before wrestling, or did that kind of come along with it?
I would say that came along with it because
Okay.
my family only took pictures at Christmas and birthdays, if that. If I didn't change much, we didn't even take one at the birthdays because the film was expensive, and and then you have to put them in an album. And she had already done an album for my brother and sister, and she didn't have time to be doing an album for me. So we didn't do much with family pictures. But I guess it started when my older sister would take me to the matches in the summertime down at the ballpark. And I finally knew that there were wrestling magazines. Not only there weren't many pictures about the AWA in those magazines because most of them were based in New York. The one exception being Mel B. Keitzer and George, of course. The wrestling news groupings. Those would have Midwest stories, but very rarely would there be anything about Davenport or Peoria or Rockford, the ones that I wanted to see. So I thought, well, I'll get a camera and maybe I can take some pictures while I'm there, or I'd like to get a picture if I'm lucky enough to be with one of the wrestlers getting an autograph. So that's how that started. And then I just wanted them for my own personal collection.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the book, it really lays it out. I don't want to give too much away because it is a very good book, and like I said, I couldn't put it down, and I appreciate you signing it for me. That means a lot to me because I like them personalized. I'm sure George is the same way. And
no extra charge for that.
I appreciate that.
I understand when people don't want one because if they're going to give it away or sell it to somebody else, I'd rather they tell me up front that don't personalize it.
Yeah, no. Hey everyone, this is Brian Ferguson, the host of Bumps and Thumps, the talk of wrestling. I want to talk to you today about my friends over at Superfriends Signatures. These guys have all kinds of wrestling products, past and present. They sell action figures, autographed pictures, you name it, they have it. My friends David Harrow and Brian Koenig, they are the real deal. Go to their website today, superfriendssignatures.com, or go to their Facebook page, Superfriends Signatures. Check them out, folks. You will not regret it. They have great prices and great deals on all kinds of products. And every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Time, they have an auction online at their Facebook page. So please check it out, Superfriends Signatures today, and enjoy the podcast. George, come on in, my friend.
One of the things that I always find fascinating is when, I've been around wrestling for a lot longer than Joyce, but the beginnings of myself and Joyce and so many wrestling fans is almost identical to the way Joyce mentioned it, that you turned on TV. She said it was by chance that Laugh-In wasn't on and you switched to a different channel. And my God, here's this guy with hair all over him and growling, and she's hooked. And, you can talk to, Brian, I've told you my story. I turned on TV and saw Mills and Kowalski, and it was by chance. I didn't look for it. It just happened. And here we are, 60 years later. And Joyce, being a girl, and I really understood when, I've known Joyce. I think, Joyce, we figured out it's about 45 years.
Pretty
43,
close,
44, 45 years. Yeah. And I want to share this because I'm not going to show you everything about her book, but there's a picture in the blue shirt right here of Nick Bachwick that Joyce took. And he's wearing that infamous inmate belt that only Nick could wear so well. And Joyce was up in town here in the Twin Cities, and she was here for a fan gathering. And obviously I was there and she was there. We didn't know each other. I'd seen her name in some print and stuff, but I went up to Joyce, and you talk about being afraid sometimes to go up to a wrestler and say, could I have an autograph? Because I think we all experienced that. I was actually a little timid to go up to this photographer. I knew she had taken that Nick picture, and it was gorgeous. Just a great picture. And I approached Joyce. I told her who I was, and she seemed to be excited that I had come to her to, George Shire, whatever that meant. But the moral of this story is that she gave me a copy of that picture like I wanted. I have an 8x10. And from that, I have been blessed to have this lady in my life for the last 45 years. And I want to tell you, when she said she was writing a book, I was excited for her. And Joyce, I am.
Yeah.
She shares a lot of her personal stuff in here, her background. And, like you said, Brian, we don't want to reveal it. It is such a beautiful read. You said you didn't put it down all the way. Normally, when I get a book, I glance through it, page through it. I'm pretty much done for a while, but then I pick it back up and then I will read it. Joyce's book, I got last Wednesday. And I had it read, cover to cover, every page, paragraph, word, when I met her at Hall of Fame on Friday. And I was in awe. And all the things that I know about Joyce and all of the things that her and I have shared as friends through the years, there's a lot of stuff that she put in here that I went, wow, I didn't know that. And talking about her mutual, technically our mutual friend, but certainly more her friend, Connie Cook, and sharing about different people in her lives and talking about her parents. And Joyce, I want everyone. I've seen 1,000 books come down the pike in the last 20 years. And some are good, some are great, some are, okay. And then others, okay. This, as I could describe it no better, this is the main event. And I think it's important to me, and I'm thinking to you a little bit now too, Brian, because we know her. We know Joyce, the special, kind, humble, very somewhat quiet person. This is awesome. And so, Joyce, when you tell people how to get this, I hope your mailman gets a hernia delivering orders to you. I swear, because I can't encourage people enough. The pictures alone are fantastic. Pictures that you're not going to see, that you haven't seen, that you won't see in any magazines or previously published. And not only that, her stories with the pictures, the dates. the events, the emotions, the wrestlers from the stories or from the wrestlers.
Yeah.
My God, this is great. And if you don't have it and you want to really just have a nice little journey and really meet a special person along the way,
Yeah.
trust me, this is it, kids. This is it.
Well, if that doesn't sell it, I don't know what will, right?
Well, and I'm not lying, man. I tell you what.
No, I know. No, it's a great book.
Joyce knows me. Joyce knows me to be a straight shooter.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, if the book sucked, as sad as it is, I would just say the author, the writer, they missed the mark or they didn't do this.
Yeah. No.
I can't find any errors in it. Joyce, phenomenal. And some of the little collectibles and stuff she shared. This is beautiful. And you need to really be proud of yourself, because I know some of it may have been a little bit difficult, or you didn't know if you wanted to share it the way it was shared. I totally understand that. It goes with writing. And this is just a beautiful account for me to know my friend Joyce even better than I did. And I love it.
Yeah. Could have said it any better myself. I've only known you for a few years, but kind of the same thing, Joyce. Great job on it. I can't say enough great things, and I'm really going to push this book on the when I push this out. And let's talk about your writing experience, though. I mean, you've never. I don't believe you've ever written a book before, correct?
No, not a book. I've written some articles before, and did some writing in my paid job, but never a book. And I really initially did not intend to write a book. As George said, I thought I was just going to do a photo book. I had seen a couple of other fellow photographers who had put a photo book out, and I thought, well, because I've always been very leery about just selling my photos, because you never know what's going to happen to them. And I've heard some other photographer stories where they get copied, and then all of a sudden you're seeing it for sale on eBay, but it's not by you, it's by somebody else. And I don't mind when a picture is out there and somebody just shares it once, but I really don't want somebody else profiting off of my photos.
Right.
To me that's kind of a slap in the face. So I didn't want to sell my photos, but I thought I could do a collection, maybe, especially if you don't do them real high resolution or something, and people could get an idea of what some of my photos were, because I really didn't think there was any books other than George's out there that do justice to the AWA. Very few. You see books for individual wrestlers, bios, and things like that, and you see books on various publications or promotions out east, but very little on the AWA. And when you do see it, it's all negative, and it's all about the final years, how it ended up. And what those people miss is the glory years of the AWA. And I'm not pretending that I got in on the beginning of that. I was lucky enough to still get in the middle of the glory years, but I wanted to write a positive book about the AWA.
Yes, and it is. I mean, your time on this, it really shows that, when they came to your town of Davenport, Iowa, and but I want to talk about the guy that is most mentioned in here besides George Shire.
No, I'm not the most mentioned.
No. Is Mick Bockwinkel.
Who?
Mick Bockwinkel is mentioned more in this book, which is a good thing. He was a great talent. He was a great talker, and from what it sounds like, he was a good friend of yours. Talk about how that all started with you. You kind of describe in your book a little bit at the beginning, but I want to hear it. We'd like to hear it, I
Well,
guess.
it was a struggle, trust me. I became friends with Nick Bockwinkel with him kicking and screaming in the beginning. But I didn't understand kayfabe at the beginning. You know, I thought
Mhm.
I had been very lucky so far up until the time I met Nick that wrestlers had been very kind to me, probably because they saw this young girl and I'll be nice to her, I'll give her an autograph, you know. And then I met Nick, or I went up to Nick, and while he was not mean at the beginning, you know, he signed an autograph for me, but calling it cordial would be a huge stretch, you know? And I understand nowadays that, you know, it was so that, you know, 50 other fans didn't come up to bug him for autographs. So he had an image to portray that he's this aloof guy, and he lived it, you know, almost all of his public life. You know, I didn't know that wasn't really him. That he was mostly a nice guy. But anyway, he got used to seeing me, and he would. Not only was I wasn't satisfied with just one autograph or one picture with him. Every single time I saw him, I wanted an autograph and a picture. You know,
Hence the book.
why I don't know, but it was like, what if this is the last time I see him, or I have to document that I saw him on this date, and I have to have a picture from this date. And Nick would get to the part where he would sign the autograph for the 50th time or for the 100th time, which was not far from the truth, you know. But I think he thought I would just get tired and go away, you know. But on the inside, I think he kind of enjoyed it too, because when I would go see him at fan events or conventions, then all of a sudden he was pretty nice, and he was a nice guy. He would pose for pictures, he would smile, he would talk to us. But at the matches, it was kind of like, don't bother me, kid, you know. And I didn't understand that for a long time. And I thought, and I was this not like me, because I am normally a very quiet and shy person, but I was going to break through that exterior. I was really going to try. And so he would see me taking pictures, and he would start to pose for me sometimes, and then he would make just certain comments like, well, I suppose I could pose for a picture again, you know. And so begrudgingly over time, but it was not easy. And the proudest thing I can say after all those 40 some years of being a fan of Nick's, that he told me that he was sorry that he had to be so mean to me at the beginning. But it took 40 years for him to say that.
Did you ever wonder what could have been with the AWA had things gone differently? Had their fortunes gone differently? Had certain wrestlers not left and perhaps more money would have been at the disposal of the Gagnes? Well, wonder no further. You can go to Brad Drake's YouTube channel and experience the 1987 Supermod for yourself, as Brad Drake starts off in May 1987 along with Greg Gagne, Baron Von Raschke, Vern Gagne himself, Nick Bockwinkel, Larry Zbyszko, Kurt Hennig, and a slew of others as he plays and saves the AWA.
You know, the funny thing is that, again, that's a story that you hear that all of us can relate to, that hung around this goofy business all these decades. In the early years, that kayfabe thing, there were times when we were young kids that we didn't understand it. But in hindsight, we learned something very important. The wrestlers did portray a character. They, by their own nature, had to be in character. And the only thing that happened was that we are in a small group. And Joyce, you know, you're in this group. The small group where the wrestlers, you're around them long enough, and Nick is a perfect example. You're around them long enough where they learn to appreciate that you are persistent, that you are there, but you're not bothering them. You're not interfering in their character, and that you're just friendly. And that, as many wrestlers have told me, they'll say, you earned the right to have that at the end. And then there were fans that would drive them crazy, and they would do everything they could to avoid them. And in fact, they would avoid them forever. So it's a hard fraternity to get into. And Joyce, you did it because exactly the way you explained. And then to have Nick's wry sense of humor with his little sarcasms, his little comments, you know, the things that he said to you and I said to me and probably some of his other fan friends over the years, you know, when he sees your collection and he goes, and you got to appreciate Nick, and he looks at you and grins and goes, "You're sick." I mean, it's stuff like that that is special. And
it is a badge of honor.
It is. And to have that badge of honor, to have him as a friend, what a great guy. To see the Nick outside the personality that he portrayed, and you realize that he was above human. He was so nice, so caring, so giving. And you're just so fortunate to have experienced that.
And that's why I have to laugh sometimes when somebody, a newer fan, has only met Nick like at a Cauliflower Alley Club event, and they come away and saying, "Oh, he was so approachable. He's so nice. He talked to me for hours. I felt like he was my friend immediately." and that is how he was. But I just want to say, you have no idea what some of us went through to get to that. What he was like in the matches. And I don't even think like today's wrestlers are portray that character in their lifestyle as much as the guys in the AWA did. And I respect that. I respect that very much. So I agree with you. It's a very small fraternity, if you will, of people that understand what the atmosphere was like back then.
And excuse me, Joyce, you brought up a good point too. When you're taking pictures of the wrestlers, and as you said, you put them into your book, but you wanted to make sure no one can copy them and sell them. And that was a fear the wrestlers had back in the day. You know, you take a picture of them, they pose for it, or you get a picture, and then a fan is out there making copies and selling the picture and making money, and the poor wrestler didn't get anything. So, excuse me. So that was important to them. They guarded the business in such a way that they didn't want you to do that either. And once they learned that you weren't going to do that, you know, like I say, you're in that inner circle. It's a very special place to be. And, you know, we've both been so fortunate to have so many friends in the business that way, that when we look back, we say, man, we sure lost a lot, you know, with all the passings.
Yeah, Nick actually asked me at one point, a couple years into getting these autographs, and because he was very concerned about selling autographs online, and he said, "What do you do with all these autographs?" And I told him, I said, I carefully put them in a binder and I date them, and it's my own personal collection. And I think he felt much better after I told him that. You know, I couldn't perceive doing anything else with them. That was what I wanted them for. And I recognized later that there were other fans who we couldn't trust that he would sign. And I see Nick Backward autographs for sale on the internet all the time, but I don't buy them because I always wanted to obtain my autographs personally.
Bingo. Yeah. And you know, the thing too about the autographs, you know, you said you showed Nick, or you told Nick what you do, you know, you put them in an album and you preserve them and it's part of your collection. And that was something he found for me as well, Joyce. He knew I wasn't going to take his photo and make 200 copies and sell it. He knew I wasn't going to get the autograph to make money. And that's why I say it's so special. And there were a lot of fans that I can say probably were left out in the cold and probably really thought he was the biggest jerk in the world because, you know, of the attitude that he had. But it was their own fault in many cases because it's the way they approached it. And some of them were up front, you know, I'm going to make copies and I'm going to sell them. And we had an incident, and I think, Joyce, you were there many years ago at Cauliflower Alley. We had some fans that were having the wrestlers sign, you know, a pile of 10, 12, 20 pictures. Just sign your name on them, you know. And on the board, I was on the board at the time, and we had to come up with the edict that the wrestler will sign one picture and he will sign it to the fan. And unfortunately, people, well, it's a bogus deal. Well, it's because some ruined it for the good people. And the wrestlers appreciated that approach too, that you're not going to make tons of money on it and they get nothing.
Yeah, and I mentioned in the book, for me, it wasn't so much the wrestlers who were upset about me
Yes.
taking the pictures. They were always willing to post. It was the promoter. And I can tell you more than once, Don Markson, who was our promoter in Davenport, came up to some fans who were trying to sell their pictures and said, nobody's going to be selling pictures on my shows. So
Right.
if we ever shared these pictures amongst ourselves, just to even show them, we had to be very careful. But my experience with the wrestlers was they would almost always want a copy for their own collection because, as you know, they didn't keep things for
Right.
themselves. You found that with their record books and that. And I probably got 20 wrestlers who have a copy of a picture I took. So.
Joyce, I wanted to ask you, did any of the magazines, at the time in the 70s and 80s, I mean, my gosh, there was probably 25 magazines from different publications about wrestling. Did they ever come into contact with you and say, hey, we've heard about you. Would you like to submit some of your photos for the magazine? We'll give you photo credit and maybe some, I don't know. Did they ever approach you with that?
A couple of them. Mostly the Wrestling News, and that was the one that I was most interested in sharing them with because, as you know, some of the publications write their own stories and exaggerate the truth a little bit. And,
No. Oh, no.
What are you talking about?
Cat's out of the bag. Oh my gosh. Yes, they do. Fabricated stories.
And I really didn't want my pictures appearing with those or not knowing what, they take the pictures and then decide what the story is after they see the pictures, and I didn't really want that. I didn't want it to become like tabloid photography. So I thought the Keitzer Melby publications were the way to go. And they did tell me, we'd be happy to take a look at your photos anytime. But they already had a lot of stuff. They had Bruce Kreitzman, they had Karen Melvin, they had
Gloria Anthony for a long time.
Yes, Gloria Anthony, and Omaha, Bob Ruiz, and many other St. Louis. So it had to be something pretty unique for them to use mine. I sent a lot in that didn't get used. And of course, this wasn't for pay. This was just for the glory of seeing your name next to a photo. And sometimes they forget to put your name next to the photo. So, but then they wanted me to only do black and white photography because you couldn't edit them as well as you can nowadays to change the color to black and white. Or they wanted me to take slides. Well, I didn't want slides. I wanted prints that I could hold in my hand that I could put in my album. So it was a lot of work for me to convert it to what they wanted. So it had to be a really good one. The one that did get in is the one George mentioned about Nick with his 70s shirt and the belt, holding the belt. That was one I was especially proud of because and it just happened to be because he had been in doing some interviews. He had that shirt on, which was particularly colorful, and it went with his eyes. And he still had the belt out. He was getting ready to put it in the trunk and get in the car. And I just said, could I get a picture while you still have the belt out? And wow, he really came through for me on that one. And in fact, Nick asked me for a copy of that picture, not because it was a good picture of the belt, but because his wife had done the embroidery on the shirt, and he wanted her to see that it was a good picture of him wearing.
And see, that's a fun story too. That's the story behind the picture. That's great.
Yeah. Which is exactly why I couldn't limit myself to just doing a photo book. I had to tell some of the stories, And like George said, and I did it was some starts and stops, and some of them got a little personal, and I just kind of was like, do I really want to share this? I don't know who's going to buy it. I don't know where it's going to end up. And I made sure right up front that I was never going to say anything negative about any particular wrestler. And if I had to say something negative about a person, I would leave their name out, But there were plenty of negative things I could have said about a few wrestlers, but not Nick being, the one of the few that I couldn't think of anything negative to say about.
Yeah.
Other than he should have been nicer to me at the beginning.
But some
Right?
of that is done in jest too. At least that's the way that in hindsight
I know.
it was
As a kid, I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I'll tell you, when I was a kid, I did not like Nick Bockwinkel at all. I wish I would have met the man later on. Unfortunately, I never got to, but when he was a heel, boy, he played the part to the T. I mean, yeah, he was something.
As he would say, then he did his job.
He did his
Exactly.
job.
We're supposed to hate him.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, you talk about some of your mentors in your book. One that I just happened to turn to the page, and that's what I was looking for. I just got lucky. Mike Grashner. Talk about him and how he influenced you to start the photography and get involved more as you did. Hello, everyone. This is Brian Ferguson, the host of Bumps&Thumps, the talk of wrestling. I want to tell you about a new podcast out called Falls Count Anywhere. It is a classic pro wrestling podcast that brings you the legends of wrestling with true wrestling fans Chris DiCarlo and Charlie Turner. They bring on guests that are legends in this business, as well as wrestlers of today, promoters, referees, you name it. They have them on there, folks. And I encourage you to listen to them. If you're on YouTube, watch them. They drop every Saturday. They have their podcast. They drop it in the afternoon. So look forward to that podcast coming out. Falls Count Anywhere podcast with Chris DiCarlo and Charlie Turner. Folks, you will not be disappointed. I guarantee it. And enjoy the podcast.
Mike was the person I wanted to be. He came to Davenport every single card, and I didn't notice it. Well, he lived in Normal, Illinois at the time, and he was a college professor. He taught English. He had a master's degree. Wore a suit every time he came. Was great friends with Jim Brunzell, but all the so-called good guys. But he had a contraption that had a still camera on it and a movie camera on it. I would say ever since the early 70s, he came to Davenport, he came to Peoria, he did WWA's places, he went to St. Louis, he went to Chicago, and he really had the inside track with the wrestlers. He would take, if you ever saw any pictures of Greg Gagne and Jim Brunzell or Vern Gagne in their homes, it's because Mike was invited into their homes to take photos of them. And just the nicest guy that you would ever want to meet. I mentioned my friend Dave in there that I knew in high school, and Dave introduced me to Mike, and you could see Mike up at ringside. I never would have gone up to him myself, but Dave introduced me, and I was just in awe. Wow, you take pictures and you know these guys, and he also was friends with some of the heels, so and he would slowly as time went on, he would slowly let me in on some of the inside things of the business, and probably more than he should have, or that more than the wrestlers would have wanted him to. But he was a trusted person, and he knew who he could trust.
Mhm.
That's
So
great. Yep,
he
exactly.
kept me out of trouble. He
Yeah.
kept me from doing anything too stupid. So he maintained a lifelong friendship with me. Unfortunately, he kind of got bored with his wrestling hobby. He was into Windy City Wrestling in Chicago when he moved to Chicago to live with his sister, and was a promoter for that for a while, and then kind of just got out of the business. And I know, and it breaks my heart, he sold all of his AWA photos and films. Yeah, I know. But I've been in contact with him a couple of times. I would love to get him a copy of this book. But regardless, I still feel like he was my mentor, and I wouldn't have gotten what I did out of this if he hadn't helped me, especially down in Peoria, where it was just good chance that he became a promoter, and then he needed me to be a photographer, and I was in the right place at the right time. But I never asked him for things that beyond what he could deliver on. And there were a couple times where he wanted me to shoot at Ringside, and the state commission wouldn't let me. So
wow, yeah.
because I was a girl.
Boy, it's a good thing Vince McMahon changed that. Got rid of those commissioners.
Yeah. And they were just trying to protect me. But
yeah, I want to talk, in the book, you also have another person you were pretty close with, and that's Lord Alfred Hayes. Talk about that relationship, if you would, how that kind of developed and grew.
he was one of my first favorites when we first started seeing some of the guys at the airport. I don't know, I had a fascination with his British accent, I think. And plus he was sort of the same character as Nick, only British, looking down on people and
Good analogy.
Yeah, that is a good analogy.
and
It's very good.
Not to mention that he managed masked wrestlers, because I had a fascination with masked wrestlers too, going back to Dr. Axe and the first Super Destroyer, the second Super Destroyer, and he was just lots of fun. If you heard Alfred Hayes laugh in the room, and he didn't laugh when he was wrestling, but if you heard him laugh at the airport, you never forgot it, because you could hear it a mile away, I swear. But he was, I think it was kind of a way that Alfred got to know people. He was very, very much a people person, and he was very good at remembering names. And when I first introduced him and I gave him a picture, had him autograph something, I said, "That's a good picture. Can I get a copy?" So I brought it to him the next time, and he remembered my name. Yeah. Maybe it's because I was a girl, or because not too many girl photographers around, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or maybe somebody clued him in, I don't know. But anyway, I was impressed he remembered my name. And then he just became a friend, and I had probably had a crush on him. He was single at the time, had been divorced from his wife. I think probably dozens of other females had crushes on him. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. Anyway, I tried not to get too involved there, but Nick was not happy with me being friends with Alfred Hayes. In fact, he asked me one time, he says, "Alfred behaves himself around you in the car, right?" And, yeah, Nick, yeah. And Alfred, actually, this isn't in the book, but Alfred actually told me one time that he said that Nick had asked him that, and that he said, "I felt like I was talking to your father." And he said, "Wow." I said, so that's just an example of how Nick really looked out for me. And Nick would not have wanted me to know that, but but he did look out for me, and I'm grateful for that now. Because
Yeah.
as a teenage girl, I didn't realize all the dangers out there.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
anyway, he became a
Part
good
of it,
friend, and then I was kind of heartbroken when he left the area. Didn't talk to him for a very long time until
Yeah.
after he had some health issues and moved out to Connecticut and got into the WWE programming. And I surprisingly heard back from him about 1986, I would say. He found an old photo that I had where I had my phone number on it, and I always put my address and phone number on them. And he found an old photo. He called me one night. I got home from work, and I didn't have a clue who. I answered the phone, and he said, "Hello, Joyce." You know, with the thing. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Hello?" And he said it again, "Hello?"
Hello?
He said, "Who is this?" Yeah, I didn't even recognize it. And he
Yeah.
said, "It's Alfred." Who? And he said, "Alfred." And then he started laughing. And then I said, "Oh my God." You have to talk about a voice from the past, because it had
Yeah.
been 6 years since I moved. And so then
Wow.
we kind of caught up after that and kept in
Yeah.
touch. And I didn't realize how I don't want to say crippled, but that's probably the accurate description. How many muscle and health problems he had. And it was all basically rheumatoid arthritis, unfortunately, from all the bumps and that he took in the ring.
Yeah.
So he really paid a heavy price for it, but his mind always stayed sharp, which was great.
Yeah. All right, George.
well, I think Joyce just expounds on again the fact that when you get to know these guys and they accept you, and like Joyce said, they remember your name. And I think that's when you realize that you've arrived, that and they're looking out for you. And especially in the case of a lady, you got one of them asking you're being a gentleman with her, or you're not, they do care about you. And when they came to a town, they were happy to see you. Part of it, they knew you weren't going to blow the whistle on the kayfabe, and that trust factor again. And Joyce again is showing us how it was a small, very limited fraternity, because most of the times when they came in, there were so many people they wanted to avoid. Oh my God, I'm going to St. Paul. I gotta have to put up with so and so. And Nick would tell you those stories, and Dr. X used to tell me those stories, that it was difficult, and especially when you're a heel. And so just special memories. And that's why, again, we're here to talk about this just incredible book. I am telling you. And I'm not saying that because Joyce is in front of me right now. I'm saying it because I really do. I feel in my heart that she has put something together that has literally captured not only the aura of the era we enjoy with her pictures, and then with the stories. And it has captured, if you know Joyce as a person, I'm telling you, you'll want to buy the book, because this is a lovely person who is sharing of herself. If you don't know a Joyce, you've just heard the name and you think, oh, there's pictures of AWA wrestlers and I'm going to buy it. That's a plus. But once you read it, and I swear this, if somebody comes away and proves me wrong, I'm going to be totally surprised. Once you read it, cover to cover, you're going to say, I have just gained a new friend, because you're going to feel warm and fuzzy about this friendship. And the friendships that all of us have made in this crazy business, they're the greatest part of it all. When you look back, all the labors of love we've done for, results and books and pictures and whatever it is, our greatest reward is the memories we have. Like she shares, Joyce, you share on Lord Elford and with Nick. Those are cherished. That's just what makes all the fun we had with this business. And to capture it in the book And
Yeah.
as Joyce, you said, to put some things in there that sometimes you had to put the brakes on and say, I don't know, do I really want to talk about this? Yeah, okay. And you do it in a nice way and to not hurt any wrestlers. That's my theory in life. You don't, if you're going to write something, if you can't write positive about the wrestler, then don't write it. Concentrate on their in-ring activities, which you did beautifully. And don't get into the smut and the dirt that a small group of fans out there want to read about or hear about. And just appreciate the fact that, like you said, Elford suffering from severe arthritis, and it was all a lot of it a result from the bumps and the thumps. Notice how I got that in?
I noticed that, yeah.
But that wasn't on purpose. It just happened. The bumps and the thumps, but that's true. This fake wrestling, and these wrestlers laid their bodies on the line night after night after night for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And they paid the price. And Joyce, as well as I do, we go to Cauliflower Alley in years past, and we see our favorites limping, walking crooked, walking slouched over, walking slowly, walking with walkers or canes, some of them in wheelchairs. And these are the heroes that we're talking about in Joyce's book and in other stories we've told. And you look at them and you go, my God. And they were 70 years old or they were 80 years old. They paid the price. And for them to give us that, to be a fan and to have them call us a friend, there's nothing more special. And Joyce, bless you, you earned this. You earned this accolade. And I want your mailman to complain that your mailbox is causing him issues.
Well, actually, George, most of my orders so far have been coming in online, and the one that's complaining about the hernia is probably going to be my husband Woody.
He's got to box them all up, right?
He's the one boxing them up and taking them to the post office. Yeah.
Well, I gave Woody a little hint the other day. I showed you that little cart thing. You might want to get that for not only hauling, but whatever you got to do.
Probably should.
Relatively cheap, you can get that. So.
Or a belt, those weightlifting belts, so he doesn't hurt his back.
Now, next time we see Woody, he's going to be 6'6" and all steroided up.
Do you ever wonder what would happen if
you give a dad a podcast?
Ladies and gentlemen,
let's just settle this debate right here, right now. It's not even just the greatest PlayStation game. It's the greatest game ever.
Not to toot my own horn, but
exactly.
Yeah, I remember he kicked me so hard I thought I owed him money.
I love it. I'm excited for this one.
He goes, "What is your name?" And I was like, "It's Thrash."
I'm getting punched in the face on the daily.
Man, this guy won't shut up.
I wear that as a badge of honor.
Yeah, I got knocked out cold in that match. It was awesome. So awesome.
We make dogs sing.
Do you always do these interviews with your shirt off?
Going live in 3, 2, 1.
So now we've been filming for the last 6 months.
I panicked.
Followed by.
Bro.
If You Give a Dad a Podcast, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Well, Joyce,
let me say one more thing. Let me say one more thing before you do that, Brian.
Yep.
You brought up Woody. And I want to say that, I've known Joyce for, like I said, 45 years. And a very special lady who I often wondered, why hasn't some guy snatched her up over the years? Because she'd come to town and we'd share time together and it was always important. And when she called me, or I actually read online when Woody proposed, he said, "Will you marry me?" And Joyce said on Facebook, and this was late at night, I saw it and she said, and I said yes. And true story, I got my phone and I called Joyce. And if you remember this, I think it was midnight or 1 o'clock or something. And I said, "I'm sorry, Joyce, I want to congratulate you." And I didn't know Woody at the time, but I want to tell you something. This is a nice, kind, gentle, sweet man who has become our friend, Lorraine and my friend. And now when Joyce comes to town or when we get together, it's 4 of us. And Woody is just a gem. And he's a lucky man. And Joyce, I am so happy that you found him 10 years ago. And I know he was like one of your biggest boosters to do this book. Maybe when those writer's blocks came or when you thought about backing off a little bit, you admitted to me that Woody was the one that said, I want you to do this. And he's been around wrestling now, and he never watched wrestling, right, Joyce?
Right,
And never,
that's right.
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
And that's another thing, to find the mate that will allow you to involve yourself in this nutty business. And as excessively as people like Joyce and I do, you've gained God. So love Woody. I love the man.
It wouldn't have happened without him. The funny part is we really made a good team on this because I knew the names of the wrestlers and the pictures and when they were taken and the stories, but he knew how to lay them out and he knew how to convert the pictures, clean up the pictures.
Wow.
But it was funny. I'd give him the captions to go with the pictures, and invariably I had to double check it because he put the wrong caption with the wrong wrestler because they were just names to him. He didn't know. Except for the ones he had met. He didn't know who they were. But now he knows a handful of the AWA ones that he's met. But he never put it down, but he was never a fan. So,
he is a fan because he has you.
Good group.
Yeah, he's a heck of a guy. I met him, actually talked to him when we were in St. Louis a few months back. We actually all sat down with Barron and his daughter Heidi, had a great conversation. It was great. One more thing before we let you go. How do people get this book?
Run, don't walk.
That's right.
A lot of people got it in Waterloo. I had a table there, and I'm not sure if there'll be another opportunity for me to do that around the Midwest. If there is a smaller event where I can get a table, I will. But in the meantime, they can ask for it online. It's I'm handling it all myself through PayPal with joyce.paustian@gmail.com.
Okay.
And if they go into PayPal and just search for that, my account will come up, and then it's $20 for the book and $6 for postage, shipping and handling within the U.S.
Okay.
If there's anybody listening overseas, they'll have to check with me for postage because it's a lot higher. But
do you do Facebook? Just message you, or how?
They can message me through Facebook. They can send me an email at that address. I truth be told, I have already gotten about 25 orders. Since Waterloo. I've been blown away, and then a lot of people have already given me some feedback on it, and I'm blown away that it's been to a person very positive. So I guess I hit a nerve, a good nerve.
I'm giddy with excitement for you. I really am. I mean that.
Yeah.
I just.
But I know it'll ease off as time goes on, and but I am glad to know that there are still old school AWA fans out there eager to know about the time they missed out on, or eager to share in the memories they have of their particular town. I've gotten orders from North Dakota, South Dakota, Northern Minnesota, Milwaukee, and all people who are saying, I watched AWA growing up and I want to remember that. So it's very encouraging to me. Not that my book is so great, but that there are people out there that want to share my passion for that time.
Yeah.
But this is why you did the book. This is what you want to share. You want others
to share the stories.
Exactly.
And share that excitement, because to a degree, AWA fans have been put down, like, why did they like that promotion? It was so much less than the others. No, it wasn't. It was just different. The philosophy was that, you were an amateur athlete and the wrestling holds were important, and you slowly tell a story and you build up the tension and the excitement and the fuse.
Exactly.
And I think almost all the wrestlers that went through the AWA have good things to say about it.
Oh yeah, yeah. The people I've talked to that were in the AWA, they always say, I know of at least two things. Vern paid well, and you got time off.
Right, right.
I mean, you know, and for that, especially that era where you're going all over the place, you know, most of those other promotion territories, you were going 300 plus days a year, easy, where an AWA average was about, I think about 270 was the most. And I will say, I'm a rephrase Marty O'Neill's slogan there. Fans, run, don't walk to your keyboard and order this book, because I'm telling you, it is great. It is so personable. Her stories in here are, you know, they're very genuine, and you feel like you're kind of almost there, and you kind of feel it in your mind and your heart, that what was going on when she was doing all this stuff with the AWA, going to these events. You know, you went to Peoria, you went to Minneapolis, you went to you know, all over in the Midwest area, you know, Minnesota, parts of Illinois, Wisconsin, a little bit. So it is a great book, and it covers such an era of that time in wrestling too. And
yeah, as I mentioned to one other reporter, I shut down a lot of towns along the way.
Oh,
but anyway, I was determined to continue to find AWA wrestling. I wasn't going to let the fact that it did stop running in Davenport stop me. So if I had to drive an hour and a half to see wrestling, I was going to do it.
I'm with you. Well, I want to, one more time, Ms. Joyce Paustian, thank you for coming on today. George, thank you for joining us today and giving.
I felt honored, and I felt it was important, because we are talking a special person, a special friend, and an absolutely fantastic book. And I do sincerely hope you sell 1 million copies and more.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to order a lot more if I do.
Well, if you do, that's a good thing.
But I'm happy it's doing well, and my goal is that the people that buy them are satisfied and happy. So so far it seems like I'm achieving that, and it's been great.
If you're a wrestling fan,
meeting people and great sharing the memories.
If you're a wrestling fan, especially, it's a great book. Go ahead, George. Sorry.
And when Brian posts this, when this episode comes up of Bumps and Thumps, it'll be on my pages and others that Brian sends them to, and we will again expound, if needed, on how important it is that we feel. This is going to be one you don't want to pass up, kids, because you're going to be sorry if you do. And I mean that.
Yeah.
So thank you, Brian, for having me on. Right. Choice. Friendship always.
Thank you so much, Brian. And
my pleasure. My pleasure.
I hope you
thank
guys
you for the book.
Successful with all your endeavors as well.
Oh, thank you very much. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Joyce Paustian. Run, don't walk to your keyboard. Order that book. If you have questions on it, Facebook or email her. I'll have it all in the description. If you're watching, thank you. If you're listening, thank you. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so, and we will talk to you soon.